As of recent, I've been getting a lot of questions regarding more of the basics of futures and terms and trading and things of that nature. Instead of like just trade breakdowns and then kind of explaining the reasoning behind a trade and that sort of thing, I wanted to take some time to make a few videos just covering some basic topics. So on this one, I want to cover tick value and point value, what they are, how you can measure them, and then how you can apply it to determining your risk and reward on a trade. So for example purposes, I'll just use MES because it has pretty simple, straightforward calculations that are easy to do and measure. So the first thing you see is the value per point here on this margin table for MES. And a point is not the same as a tick. So first of all, a tick is the smallest possible movement price can have on a chart. So it'll at least move on the MES chart 25 cents. It can't make like a 10-cent move or anything smaller than that. It's going to be at least 25 cents every time price moves. And then you can see the measurement for that is $1.25. So anytime price moves one tick in your favor, you gain $1.25 profit or you lose $1.25 depending on the direction. So I've got MES up here on a smaller time frame, the 1 minute, just so we can kind of see smaller movements for this example. So you can see each line here is two ticks because it's going up by 50 cents. So the smallest move price could have would be from this to halfway. It can't move any smaller than that, and it often moves more than one tick at a time. But again, this is all just so you can figure out the measurements of price movements on a chart. So tick is the smallest move. A lot of times things are referred to in points just because it's simpler to use round whole numbers. So every 1 point that MES moves, it's worth $5. So that's going to be, four ticks in each point. But it's easier to just use the point value when you're measuring like your stop loss or your take profit on a chart. So that's why I'll mostly refer to things in points when I'm talking about my breakdowns and, target moves and stuff like that. Just because using it in ticks is often, there's a lot of ticks in each move. So it's just easier to do the breakdown in points. So how do we apply tick and point value when it comes to an actual trade example? And how does this help us determine what our risk is, how many contracts to get on a trade? So if we were to go long just where price closed on Friday and we're using the long tool in TradingView, and let's just say we wanted our stop to be here, this is when our trade would become invalidated, and then this would be our final target. So we need to know how many contracts to get into a position, and we can't figure that out unless we understand the point value of each zone. So all you have to do is take this number here. The first number in red is going to be the point value of your stop loss zone, so 4.5, and then we talked about how the point value for MES is 5. So we would just simply, if I can get my calculator back up, times that by 5, and then that's going to be your risk on the trade. So if you just keep this simple, assuming you wanted to go with one contract, that's what it would be. But let's say you want to risk around $100 on each trade. Well, if you did 4 contracts, that would get you pretty close. 5 would be at like around $112. And you can't always get exact dollar amounts of risk because you have to take contract numbers in whole numbers. So you can't take like a fractional contract when it comes to futures. So you would probably want to go with 4 contracts on this one. That would get you as close to $100 without risking too much. And then you would want to also know, what's my potential profit in terms of dollars on this trade. So you would simply take the 13, the first number there is going to be your point value of the profit zone. And then again, times that by 5, 65. And we said we were going to go 4 contracts. So $260 of potential profit on a trade that we were risking $90. So that would be a good risk to reward on an actual trade. Purely just an example, but I hope that clarified how we can measure moves on a chart when it comes to futures. Forex has pips, stocks have shares, and in futures we have ticks and points. So hopefully that cleared it up and makes it easier to determine how much you're going to be risking on each trade.